Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jody and on my channel I talk about Broadway and books. And in today's video I will be continuing my Broadway show series where I talk about every Broadway show I've ever seen. So normally in the series on my channel I go over a few things such as who was in the cast at my performance, who was on the creative team, how I liked the show, anything interesting in the playbill. So without any further ado, let's get on to today's show. So today I'll be talking about the 34th Broadway show I ever got to see, which was the Broadway revival of Gypsy. So I saw this show in June of 2003 at the Shubert Theater. And in case you didn't know, there's going to be a new musical going into that theater sometime soon called Hell's Kitchen. So in case you didn't know, now you know. And now I'll get on into what is in the playbill. So here's the page that has all the lead and supporting performers. And then I'll get to the page with the chorus standbys and understudies. And before I get on into who was in the cast, there was actually somebody going on for somebody because I think someone was out of the show that day. So I'll just share that as well. And now I will get on into, who's in the cast. Usually at this point in the video, I point out any names I may recognize from having seen them in other Broadway shows since I saw them in Gypsy, or other shows I saw them maybe in before Gypsy. So I'll get to that now. So this was actually the very first show I ever saw Bernadette Peters in. She played Rose, and yeah, from what I remember, she was really great in the show. I have gone on to see her in a few Broadway shows. Let me think. What have I seen her in? On the spot here, I'm trying to remember what I saw. I definitely saw her in the last Broadway revival of Follies on Broadway, which I'll get to that when I get to it. So wasn't my favorite, but you know what? Sometimes you see shows you don't like as much, What can I say? I definitely have seen her, and I want to see. Oh, I saw her in the last Broadway revival of Hello Dolly as well. I feel like there's one more, but I can't think off the top of my head, and I don't want to make this video longer than it has to be. So, yes, Tammy Blanchard was in the show. She played Louise, I believe. Yeah, she played Louise, and she's done several other Broadway shows as well. I saw her in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and she was also in the most recent off-Broadway production, Little Shop of Horrors. She was the first performer to play Audrey in that production, I believe. John Dosset was in this production. Oh, I've seen him in a few shows. Newsies. I saw him in the off-Broadway. When Dear Evan Hansen was off-Broadway, I saw him in that show as well. This has a really great cast. I guess I saw so many of these people in other shows after this, so this might be, I might take a minute to go over everyone in the cast. Brooks Ashmanska. I love Brooks. I probably mispronounced your name wrong. I apologize, but one of the best Broadway performers I've ever seen on the stage. Just like a comedic genius. But yeah, I didn't realize, like when I saw the show, a lot of these performers, it was my first time seeing them in the show, so I didn't know who they were at the time, but I didn't remember Brooks was in the show actually, so that's pretty cool to relearn. And oh my gosh, I've seen him in a few shows. I saw him in The Prom, once again on the spot, and totally am drawing a blank on the other shows I've seen him in, but oh, he was in Something Rotten. He was in Something Rotten, right? I want to say he was, but now I'm not sure. But yeah, he's done a lot of Broadway shows, and I've seen him in quite a few. I'm just drawing a blank now for some reason. David Burka was in this show. Julie Halston was in the show. Another great comedic performer. I saw her in You Can't Take It With You. Tootsie, Hairspray. I believe I saw her in Hairspray at some point. I either saw her in Hairspray, but she was definitely in Hairspray at some point. I can't remember if I saw her in that show or not, but pretty sure she was in that show. She was also on Sex and the City at some point, and yeah, she was great on that show too. Yeah, another just fantastic. Michael McCormick. I know his name sounds very familiar to me, and he looks very familiar to me, but I can't remember the other shows I've seen him in, but I'm pretty positive I've seen him in other shows as well. Kate Renders, who I saw in, she was in the 2002 revival of Into the Woods when I saw it. And she was in Something Rotten. She was definitely in some. Oh, I'm pretty positive Brooks was in Something Rotten. Yes, because I think he played her dad in the show. So yeah, she was in Something Rotten too. But she's more recently has done television. She's on the High School. No wait, what's it? High School Musical, the series on Disney Plus. Um, yeah, she's on that show. I've seen a few seasons of that show. I'm a bit behind on it, but I'll get to that show eventually. But yeah, who else? This had a really great cast. Uh, let's see. Tim Ferdal, Tim, I'm gonna mispronounce his name wrong. I'm almost positive, but Tim Federell, which I didn't realize he was a Broadway performer before he became like a writer, and I'm pretty positive he co-wrote the book for Tuck Everlasting, the musical, which I absolutely loved. I cannot wait to talk about that show, but it's many, many shows away because I saw that in 2016 and we're only on 2003. But I believe he also writes books now as well. I didn't realize he was in the show. Like I said, I hadn't seen many of these performers in a show yet, so I since have. So or know who they are now. That's what I should say. But who else is in the show? Yeah, those are the only names I recognize from either having seen them at other Broadway shows since or know who they are now, per se, if you will. But yeah, so now I will get on into who is on the creative team, because this had a pretty amazing creative team. Arthur Lawrence wrote the book. The music was done by Jewel Stein, and the lyrics were done by Stephen Sondheim. I believe this, if I'm not, I could be wrong about this. I believe Stephen Sondheim, one of the first shows he worked on was either West Side Story or Gypsy. I think it's one of the two, so kind of a Broadway fun fact for you, but I'm not really positive if it was West Side Story or Gypsy, but it was one of the two, I believe. Then, let's see. The lighting design was done by Jules Fisher and Peggy Eisenhower, who their names are so familiar to me. I'm pretty sure they've won several Tonys for their work on many Broadway productions. Let's see. The dance arrangements were done by John Kander, which I was not aware of. One of the famous, he was a part of the famous songwriting team of Fred Ebb and John Kander. They wrote Chicago and Cabaret, the music for that. So that was pretty cool to learn. The choreography was done by Jerome Robbins, and then there was additional choreography by Jerry Mitchell, which I was totally not aware of that he was involved in this production. Super cool to learn because he's been a part of so many Broadway shows that I've seen. Hairspray, Legally Blonde, Volmonte. I want to say others like obviously. Did I say Legally Blonde? I'm not sure now. Oh, Kinky Boots. Yeah, amazing talent. And then Sam Mendes directed the production. So now for how I liked the show. Yeah, I really liked this show. It was the first time I ever saw Gypsy live on the stage, and I did go on to see the next revival of Gypsy as well in 2008. That's our Patti LuPone, but we're talking about this revival today. And from as far as what I remember, I really liked the show. It's been like several years since I've seen this production, so as far as the details and like of this, how I like the show, exactly how I like the show, I really honestly do not remember. It's been so long since I've seen the show, but I remember I like the show, and sometimes that just has to be enough, I do remember, I believe it's when Bernadette Peters sang Rose's Turn, or Everything's Coming Up Roses. She was wearing this beautiful purple dress, and I just really remember that dress. I remember it was beautiful. But yeah, I don't really remember much about the production otherwise. I just remember I liked the show. Like I said, it's been a while. But I'll get now on to, some of the musical numbers that I do remember that I like from this show. So I'll do that now. This is how you know I don't really remember the production all that well, despite I do remember I like the show. Because usually if Brooks Manska, I can't pronounce the last name, I'm sorry, but Brooks, if he's in a show, I remember it because, and also Julie Halston, like this is how I know I don't remember anything from the show, because they're like some of my favorite Broadway performers, and if I don't remember, like, any of the numbers that they were in. Clearly, my memory is not that great when it comes to this production, but I do remember I like the show. That I do remember, but that's how I know I forgot a lot about the show. Let's see. This had a pretty great score. May we entertain you. That's a great number. Let's see. Everything's Coming Up Roses, a classic song from Gypsy, I should say. Together, Wherever We Go. Let Me Entertain You. Rose's Turn. I think that's I can't remember off the top of my head if it's Everything's Coming Up Roses. I think it's that one. That's like the real big number in Gypsy when the character of Rose, which was played by Bernadette Peters when I saw the show, that's like their big like showstopper number. It's either that or Rose's Turn. Honestly, it's been quite a long time, and despite I really like the show, it's not like a favorite, so my memory is not as clear, like I said. So now I'll get on into anything interesting in the playbill. Let's see. I don't think there's that much in this playbill. I think there was just like one thing. Yeah, there's really nothing in this playbill. Sorry to say, sorry to disappoint. Yeah, I'll just get on now to the next Broadway show I will be talking about, which will be my 35th Broadway show that I ever got to see on the Broadway stage. And that would be my first time seeing Little Shop of Horrors. So, yeah, I'm going to have a lot to talk about, at least for my first time seeing the show, because that production almost didn't happen. And, I'll get to that when I get to that. But basically, a little preview is the show had an out-of-town tryout in Florida, I believe, and I guess something about the production just like did not work, or whatever may have been the case. But they like recast everybody in the production with the exception of Hunter Foster. So the show was supposed to originally start on Broadway in July, and then they recast everyone except for Hunter Foster, and then the show began in August of that year, and so that's when I saw the show. But what's pretty cool about this is this still has it as though for the production that was supposed to happen, like the first production, if you will. It says, previews begin July 16th with Alice Ripley and Hunter Foster. So that's how you know this had been put in playbill before, they found out that production wasn't going to be coming to Broadway. But yeah, that's the next show I'll be talking about in this series. If you made it to this point of the video, thank you so very much for watching me talk about my 34th Broadway show that I ever got to see, which was the Broadway revival of Gypsy starring Bernadette Peters. So, like I said, be sure to stay tuned for my next video in the series where I talk about my 35th Broadway show, which was my first time seeing the Broadway revival, Broadway production. I can't remember if it was a revival or just, revival of Little Shop of Horrors. So, yeah. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, bye.